Greetings and welcome to Star Trek Discovery Pod, a sometimes funny, trying to be smart podcast covering all things new and classic Trek. I am the gatekeeper. Are you the key master? I am your captain, Mariah Gossett. With me on the view screen, we have
Clyde Haynes, and I can't wait to talk about is it Spurk? This whole, like, if you think about it, naming like the shipping names, I had to go with Spurk because if you switch the names around, it becomes an adolescent joke that I'm not willing to tell.
Great.
Love it. And, you know,
it's in your mind now, isn't it?
Call me Jim. Pause to touch it.
Yes, tonight we are talking about the finale of the third season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, New Life and New Civilizations. It was directed by Marja Verrillo, written by Dana Horgan, and my favorite, David Perez. Very excited to jump in. Unfortunately, Mike is in sick bay, but he sends his regards. But before we fully jump into talking about tonight's episode, Paul, can you tell people how they can find the podcast, where they could leave ratings and reviews and other things to get connected with the community?
Sure. Hey, everyone. You can find our podcast at Apple, Spotify, YouTube. All links are at StarTrekPod.co. And if you like what you hear, and if you don't, doesn't matter anyway, please join our Patreon, and you get access to our amazing Slack community.
Indeed, for just $2 an episode. And it's a good time to join because we're going to take next week off. So you'll get a lot of fun hangs for a cheap price for the month of September. Woo! Woo! And Clyde, if people are hanging out with us live tonight on YouTube, how should they get our attention in the chat?
Super simple. You need 2 starships, phasers at a large box, and then when it's just right and you don't blow up the planet, you step right through into the chat. No, seriously, type capital P, capital O, capital T, capital Pod into the chat, and we will take a look at your musings, your thoughts, your questions, your comments, your conundrums. And in that special moment, when you want to tell us about your overall thoughts of this interesting, wonderful season finale episode, type capital HF into the chat. You'll know what that means in a second, and we'll take a look at your overviews.
Indeed. Speaking of which, I do think it is time for us to get to that incredible moment. It is time for some hot freaks.
Hot freaks! Hot freaks!
Some hot freaks. Paul, what did you got to see this episode early before any of us?
I got to see it on Monday. I was invited by a friend to go see it at the Culver City Theater, where there was a Q&A afterwards. Like Paul Wesley, Ethan, Una,
Rebecca Romaine. You got to see Rebecca Romaine in person?
Yes. And also I got to see Jerry O'Connell,
Whoa,
so her husband.
2 for 1.
And we got Ransom there.
2 number ones.
That's right, 2 number ones. 2 for the number ones.
Yeah.
And let's see, and Henry and Akiva were there.
Fun.
Wow. So yeah, it was really.
Was it fun to watch in a big group setting?
It was, yeah. It was, it was like more letterboxy than my TV, or it felt that way for some reason. It was great to see it with a group of people who were all there, super excited to be there, and shout out to our podcast listener Chris, who stopped by and said, "Hey, are you Paul?" And I go, "I am." And he goes, I listen to your podcast. So so I'm not saying that I'm like going to buy a house in the hills right now, but I'm shopping.
Shopping, because we are now podcast famous, which means we must be podcast rich. And if it's anything like Smartless, any day now we're going to start our own cell phone network.
That's right. It was really fun. It was very interesting because I feel like the episode really paid off a lot of things that were set up. And so, the showrunners were talking about how they didn't know they're going to have a 4th season. And I go oh, I can see how they kind of tried to do that with this. And I thought that was a good thing. I felt it was a little, by design, probably a little disjointed by the way we'll talk about how it's set up. And I don't think it didn't work. It did feel abrupt to me,
Mm.
and we can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
I had some like amazing sequences, like the Kirk Spock mind meld. Like top notch, top notch. Like this is probably the first time where I go, oh, I'm excited to see Kirk become Kirk. Like
Yeah.
the other episode, what was the eating the tail.
Mhm.
Like I think everyone really loved that and goes, oh, this is gonna be Kirk. Kirk before Kirk, and I'm like, eh. But
Mhm.
here, I'm on board. I was like, oh, this is well done. Mine like a steel trap, you know.
Steel trap.
And so there's a lot of things that I like about it. Once again, the production design,
Yeah. We can get into
so
all of it.
amazing. Yeah, we'll hit it all up. But like it was a very good episode.
Indeed. Clyde, what's your hot freak?
Well, one, I gotta say, I love the idea of watching stuff like this in a big group when I've been able to see like episodes in a theater. I actually, it makes me miss the idea of us getting together and watching TV together.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we spend so much time streaming it and watching it on
Yeah.
our own. There's something a little different when you get to do it with people. It's I remember in college I watched a comedy once. I'm not gonna say which one it was, but I watched a comedy. And when I watched it by myself, I was like, it's okay. And then like a week or two later, I watched the same like movie in a group of my friends, and it was hilarious. There's something about that communal experience. So Paul, I think the fact that you got to see this episode with a group of people is really kind of cool.
Yeah, all bunch of Star Trek nerds, like just
like, it's just kind of cool.
Like the moderator was, I forgot his name, but he was crazy. Like,
oh, he usually moderates all of their Comic-Con panels as well. Yeah,
and it was like if there was a 23rd century meth, he was on it.
Wow,
in a good way.
He's
in the
very
best way.
enthusiastic.
This is no shade. This is like he's like, oh, he's really in it. Like I'm a Star Trek nerd, but this is
next level.
Different tier. This is different tier.
Real talk for a second. One of the things I love about this podcast is when Paul starts talking, I typically think, oh, I know where he's going. And by the time he gets to the end of a sentence, I go, nope, didn't see it coming there. That was not where I expected it to go. Like every time. 23rd century meth. That was not on my bingo card. I like this episode. I'm looking at the chat and Kern says far from his favorite episode of the season. I dug it. And maybe it was the Kirk Spock moment was just so good.
It was a highlight. It was a series highlight.
Yes.
I felt like 3 seasons waiting for you're like, oh, I see where the next series is going to be. Like I see in 3 seasons, not for because it's building up to that, and I think that's totally fine. There's no shade.
Yeah,
it was just like the split screen. I was going like I'm not always a fan of split screen, but I go like yes.
Yes, I'm with you. Like the execution was done and it felt new. Like this was something where, particularly as long time Trek fans, a lot of times we're like, oh, this is a variation on something I've seen before. This felt fresh, and I was like, whoa, like I'm in. So I enjoyed that. I did think like this was the first time in a long time that I got to a series finale, a season finale, or even a series finale, and I go, as a series finale, like I don't know what's gonna happen in season 4 or 5, but as a series finale, good job.
Yeah.
Like that felt like wrapped up really well. And to reference you, Paul, I did go, this is the first time I was like, you want to reboot TOS? Okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'll watch.
I think for me this was like a perfectly fine season finale for a perfectly fine season. Like there was lots of highs this season, but there was also some pretty major lows for me, and so I think this sort of hit the beats that we wanted to have concluded by the end of it. And I also read in an interview, Paul, like you were saying, that they weren't sure if they were going to get a season 4. And so this was like, oh, I can see how you're trying to wrap this up in a bit of a bow, I think the initial draft of this episode probably could have been a two-parter in my mind because there is some plot
Fair.
I think left on the table we can get into, but overall I had a great time watching it, especially the first half. For me, I got really excited about where we were going. I was like, I see you Ghostbusters references and I'm picking up what you're throwing down. And I got real excited about it. And yeah, I think it's fun when Trek dives into like areas about spirituality and the unexplained, because I can't remember who the quote is from. I've seen it around, but it's like one of those things where it's like scientists are like, my favorite part of science is when it feels like magic. And I think this is an episode that really embodies that statement for me, because there are things that were left unexplained, right? Majorly unexplained, but in like a fun way that I didn't quite mind. But let's go ahead and dive on into the episode, which to me felt like a pretty big nod to Inner Light from TNG.
They mentioned it
at the episode.
They go like, oh, like, and then and we did our Inner Light magic kind of thing.
Yeah, it felt very much like that. And then the first, I think Davy Perez is a writer who loves to pay a little homage, I think, to a lot of our sci-fi influences and horror influences of the past. And as soon as they said ley lines, I went, we're going Ghostbusters, baby. Here it is. This is what's happening. And I'm here for it. And I got very excited. Especially once we found out you had to cross the streams to maintain the power. But kind of starting back at the beginning, essentially we figure out that the the Vesda has to be has essentially teleported itself back to where it began, and so we know we're getting a we're getting a back reference to that episode. And I think sorry, I thought I had a do not disturb on and now my phone's going crazy. My bad. But
hearing that your friend saw you on a podcast is like, let me call her.
Yeah. It was just like, but yeah, what did y'all think about us kind of returning back to this? I know it was something left unsaid and we sort of get some like technical jargon along with the made up ley lines, which have never been established in canon of Star Trek before, as far as I could figure out. And it sort of gave me a back reference to the idea of the mycelial network in a bit of a way. What did y'all think about this thought process of these interdimensional evil beings being able to sort of travel outside of what our normal like understanding of Trek canon?
I think like there is like, I think there's precedent in like the Iconians with their gateways as far as like just super teleporting. So and like you do have the big door that winds up teleporting you into like the vault. So it didn't seem that much of a stretch. Like I had to go like, okay, so you just ley lined yourself like across without the door from the Enterprise. That was a little stretch, but I was like, whatever. It's the first minute. You'll be fine. Like
yeah. The
so,
other.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, so I don't think that I feel like if I had to make a criticism of this season, is there's a lot of hand waviness as far as like, oh, here's the reason why this is, and and like one of the things that Star Trek does really well is it has its own internal consistency with its like technology, and even if it's like gobbledygook, it's like codified gobbledygook. Like I remember,
yeah, it feels like technobabble. Yeah,
exactly. There's a difference between like magic and technobabble. And I remember when I had like in the 90s where I had the Enterprise D like blueprint manual, and you just played with it and you go like, oh, gobbledygook, but it was systematic, it was codified, it was and this season a little loose with that, but like let's get that aside.
Yeah, I agree with you, Paul. I always, we've talked about this on the pod before, but I'm like one of the 6 people who read the Titan series novels. And what I remember about those novels were always it started heavy science, right? Like, because there was,
Mhm.
in order for you to understand the action when you eventually get to it, there's this explanation of the problem, and the problem
Sure.
is always something scientific, it's cultural, but so there's a lot of exposition about here's what's going on in this backstory
Mhm.
and telling the story. And that why that worked for me was when I think back to TNG, there's a lot of conversation. When I think of TNG, I often think of Picard and the senior officers sitting around in the ready room talking about the science stuff for minutes, right?
Sure.
Like they use 3, 4, 5 minutes of the show talking about a science problem, right? And I think that and that was on broadcast network TV. Now we're on streaming, and I'm looking and going, you have the ability to really stretch this out. You're not confined by it has to be 43 minutes. You want it to be 47 minutes, you want it to be 52 minutes, you get to do what you want. And that wasn't taken advantage of. And so it to your point, Paul, I did think there was some hand waviness to it. And so I chose to go, all right, I'm going to believe it. I'm going to go yes, because I want to see what happens to the story. And it's kind of cool looking. And the set design is great. And the costumes are amazing. And, I could talk about those dresses, but you know who
I
I'm
know.
talking about. So, like,
Yeah,
all of
I
that was kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the highlights for me was the set and costume design this episode. I thought it was really cool. I thought the world design was really incredible. And I think, for me, there's been some comments in the chat, like Kian saying the Mbenga Destiny part of the episode seemed too convenient. And then like the Vesda story was meh, but I like the Kirk, Spock, Pike, Patel. I thought there was an opportunity to really combine a lot of the relationships that have been like working throughout this season in an interesting way. The way that Pike and Mbenga work together in that zombie episode, and like, I'm all for. It felt like there was a C plot that dealt with Mbenga more that got cut, and
Maybe. Yeah. Sure.
I kind of wish we had gotten it, because I think that was an interesting thing to have seen that come full circle with him, because I think we've had a lot of character growth there. And like this season for me, I saw a writer make this comment, I think from Trek movie maybe, saying that like this season seemed to push more plot development over character arc, and I thought that was a thoughtful critique, because I think there was a lot of starts of character arcs, especially in these different coupledoms that we've sort of had across the season, that could have been, their relationships could have been more momentous. Like, I think Batel's ultimate sacrifice in this episode would have felt more emotionally impactful if we had gotten more of her throughout the season, and more of that. I know we saw a giant flash forward in an alternate dimension in this episode, but I feel like in other, like when Hemmer passed, I felt like I felt that passing in a much more
Yes.
significant way, and that sacrifice in a significant way. And I think we missed it a bit with her plot line this season.
I think the reason I agree with that. I'm sorry, you go, Clyde.
I was just gonna say there are a couple things along that lines that kind of stuck with me, and I agree with you, Mariah. Like, I felt like almost from beginning, we kind of suspected that she wasn't gonna make it past this season. But even if that was a hinted at, you didn't build her up. Like, if you want to talk about like Himmer, or you talk about Arium, there are these moments throughout Trek where it's like you do it where you start to ingrain them into the episodes more and more and more, so that when you yank them away from us, we feel it. And I felt like it's almost like she spent the entire season in sickbay, right? And it was
She
like,
did.
well,
She
people.
was a a lot.
She was. So you show up and you're like, hey, how are you doing? Oh, you're doing a little bit better. Okay. Oh, you're not doing this great. And then you leave to go on to your mission. And so when they pass, it's like, oh yeah, well, I kind of expected that. Where it would have been more interesting if she had been on away missions and doing more things,
or even just like more relationship with Mbenga, and like showing that, like, if we're gonna bring him back into this plot line, since like he was needed to open the gate, and how that relationship impacted Pike, I was like, there's something I could see there was something here, and I don't know if it just got cut and buried or what happened, but it could have been, I think, a more interesting ending because it did feel like, oh, we never saw how they even got out. Like I was like, oh, we need two, so now Mbenga and Pike have to get out of this together. Like there was like a piece
Mhm.
missing in all of this, but
That's true. And I think the other thing, and this is going to sound like a broken record, but here's another episode. We saw this all throughout the season where your set design, your costumes are interesting, and you bring us to this world, and we're there for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? Like we saw some people running around a little bit, but I'm used to Trek going, hey, we're going to land this on a planet and we're going to spend 15 minutes with you feeling like you're on this planet.
Because they spent the money on the budget, they're gonna make it worth it.
Exactly. But here it was like, oh, y'all making it rain and then you don't care. Like it would be hard for me to really tell you about any planet and have a sense of like, oh, I remember that planet. Where I think with other Trek episodes, you start talking about certain planets. Like I think about Voyager and I think like the Kazon planet. Like I visually remember like what those look like in deserts and like
even
Mad Max and all
in-
that stuff. And I don't have that with this season.
And even in modern Trek, I feel like, on Discovery, we got a much more interesting and full like idea of like the Trill home world. And like anytime we went through like
books place, like
Books Planet. And like when we went down to like the Klingon like marketplace where Michelle Yeoh, got Tilly into a lot of trouble. Like this is all stuff that we've seen done even in the modern era. And so I think there would have been opportunity there. Now, there are things I really enjoyed. I think in this episode in particular, I liked some of the fun little callback things of like Uhura tricking Scotty to wear the dress uniform like she fell for back in Children of the Comet. I thought that was a fun
because like circle violence.
Yep. And then there's the second Doctor Who reference, and I saw an interview with Akiva saying that Pelia does know the Doctor, and so Doctor Who and Star Trek are now confirmed to be in the same universe.
Wait, say that again.
Fascinating.
Pelia makes there's a TARDIS cameo and the Setlat who ate its tail, and then Pelia also implies she once spent time traveling with a a traveling doctor.
Oh, I didn't
get that. I got the underline. I didn't see like what they're referring to.
Yeah, it's Doctor Who. They had a big Doctor Who and Star Trek panel at Comic-Con this year too. So I think they're setting that up in some way, although those are not in the same properties. So I don't know if we'll ever fully get a crossover episode, but I would love to see Carol Kane on an episode of Doctor Who.
That would work. That would be on brand for sure.
Also, Scotty's impression of Pelia, that sounds like a vampire. Really fun. And like I said before, the costumes are incredible.
Did you guys catch, and I can't quite remember what the scene was, but Ortega's gave a look that I was like, there you go. There was it was like a look to the camera like, what?
Oh, it was Kirk and Spock. It was when Kirk and Spock are kind of chit-chatting. And, because Kirk's all like, you have a perfectly capable pilot. And they're like, it's kind of not a pilot thing. And then they're kind of having a bit of a stare off. And I feel like Ortega was everyone being like, yeah, you can start your fan fictions now. This is where it starts,
It was a great moment. At least for me.
Here's one of the things that I thought was pretty interesting. It's like, I love the moment, blah, blah. Why did it need to be Kirk?
Like, because he was more open than others. Because Spock has a crush. That's my canon.
Because Spock has mind melded, or at least being closer to a bunch of people, say La'an, and
they're mind melding all the time, if you know what I mean.
So I'm just saying, it's not a problem. It was just like one of those things where oh, this worked. Here is the way that you here's the way that you kind of plot
narrativize this.
Yeah, exactly. It was just fine. It was just fine. Because as a fan, I'm going for it. But you have those refrigerator questions when you're drinking your orange juice by the refrigerator. You go huh, Why'd you do that?
You're killing me, man. You're killing me. Well, I mean, you bring up a good point though, Paul, because I think, again, as a fan, you asked me why did they do it? Because they're answering the question.
Yeah.
How did these two end up the way they did?
Yeah.
And they have not answered that question and given
yeah.
us enough
Yeah.
all season. So this is kind of a bit of a, we're going to rush and do something that answers that question so you can check it off. But if this is the first like series you've ever watched and you've got no background, like you've lived your whole life in a cave and you came out to watch this show only, and you don't know the legend of Spock and Kirk, what you're asking me is, does it fit? Does it make sense? Like, why him? And to your point, I like, without the history, maybe I question it a lot more than I did.
Yeah. It's fine. It's totally fine. But it's just one of those things where, like, I guess I'm this season has pushed me to go like, oh, how far am I willing to just go with it? Just go with it. Like, like I think one of the things that I had I bumped was the inner light portion of the flashback, which like any Star Trek fan who watched TNG and saw Inner Light would know that you knew exactly what's happening. Like, even if you're any kind of and I go like, oh, I see what they're doing, and it's good, it's fine, it's executed well enough. But like, to everyone's point, like, if I just had seen Batel like in every episode, of the season, it would mean more. But there were gaps where she was missing. And the way that they did a real good job of this was like with Ironic Gamble. Hey, you're on the team, kid. Great. And he's there for a little bit, and all of a sudden, boom, you got no eyes. You're dead. And then that's like, oh my God. Because like in the first 5 episodes, I see this kid. I think he's gonna make it. And he's, I think if they had gone and said like, oh, Patel's gonna be part of this crew for a bit, and she's always around, and she's gonna give a little bit, like, it basically no one was really invested in Patel aside from Pike.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
So it didn't feel like, that she was we're losing family. It felt like we were losing someone's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to me, the other thing, it's like, if they were very like, this whole season makes a little bit more sense to me if they were like, this is the last one and we're just going to let everyone have a lot of fun writing a bunch of genre episodes. And I went, oh, that's what happened. Like, that to me was like, we're going to let everyone have fun and like have a good time. And then we're going to wrap this up with a bow, and you're going to see a beautiful future of what Pike could have had in another alternative timeline. But then ultimately he's going to just be a little bit sad for the last bit. But I do like that they at least did set up like, okay, this will be the last 5-year mission for Pike, and then potentially this transition to a Kirk Enterprise.
Yeah, it's
Jay with the good question. Did the people on the planet get their eyes back at least? That's a great question.
I did wonder that.
They can regenerate the eyes as long as they weren't brain dead like Gamble was. Like,
I mean, they were stabbing their eyes out. So
that was so hard to watch. I like Inner Light. Like, to me, Inner Light, to your point, Paul, as a TNG fan, Inner Light is this, to me, it's this beautiful moment that we know, and it's like almost like this secret moment between us, the viewer, and Picard. Right? Like, we got to experience it. He has those memories. He's got the flute, and nobody else really got to go on that journey with him except for us. I actually liked the dream sequence, and it was kind of neat. And I was, it was a romantic comedy inside sci-fi, and I kind of dug it and was like, okay, this is like, if they could open up the canon and not be bound by, Pike's tragic end, or we all know it's going to happen, that Patel's not going to make it. Like, let's just take a moment and watch this like fanfic romantic comedy. And it was done well, and I enjoyed it, and introduced to his daughter and the whole nine. Like, I liked it. So I enjoyed that.
No.
Yeah. No,
There's
I
nothing
think
wrong with it.
I enjoyed it.
interesting. It's an interesting thought like experiment too. It's like this is essentially her trying to like Chupi made the point. It's like it's her gift to him, which I
Mhm.
think is really sweet, but it's also so tragically sad because it's essentially like here's something you're going to now have a memory of a life that you can never have.
What do you
Mhm.
mean? She had that life. Picard had that life. You know, like
Well,
I
Picard
think that-
really, but he lived. I think the thing is, Picard lived every moment of that life.
and I think that like they did too. Like
Interesting.
I think that's the question that I walked away with was
Mm,
like we saw like
snippets.
clips, like
Yeah.
like highlights, right?
but you
Like
saw
this is
snippets with
the
Inner Light too.
but Inner Light felt like it didn't feel like snippets as much as it felt like this I don't know.
And
Montage
the
is
reason,
not quite word, but it just
like,
felt like it was
and I'll tell you why, because you had a whole episode, like a whole 40 minutes to devote to that,
yes.
and more than that,
instead
like
of
Yes.
Picard was doing something in Inner Light. He was going like, oh, here's climate change. Like, I'm figuring that out. Like, what's happening? Like, I'm trying to help out my village. Whereas all Pike did was going like, oh yeah, it's great, it's great. But I push against even that though, because he's going, oh, here it is. It's the day that I'm going to die or get really messed up. So
Mhm.
so they were dealing with that too. So like,
You're right.
there's a time aspect of it, but like
Mhm.
for me, like the thing, and it comes down to this like really minor thing because I'm really nitpicky. It's like the cut from like Vesda jail to like Mind Palace, like was a really hard cut.
Mhm.
Whereas if they just like had her do a flash of light with her hands,
Right, just like a hand to his head or something like
or not even just hand, like like just do like a flash, like power coming from a hand, and then it flashes to white, and then they're in the memory. I might even be
Mhm.
able to believe that, like, oh, we're just in the future now. But
Mhm.
like because it was the way that it was cut, like a hard cut from one to the other, I go like, oh, this is an Inner Light thing. Because when she goes like, oh, I don't even remember how we did it, and he goes like, well, I just had the power to blah blah blah. I goes, well, I didn't
Mhm.
see it. So I already
Yeah.
know it's in the head.
Yeah, that's another scene I felt was missing is like how did Mbenga get him behind the gate? Because essentially you have like him like banging at the door, right? Like that's the knocking we keep hearing.
Yes. So I don't know if that's the embed because he already blew up the door by the time we were in there. I think they just used that as a metaphor. Like the question I had was like after Patel becomes like this ice sculpture, like how do you get Pike out?
Yeah,
He's
that's what I was
invented,
like.
yeah.
You need two people to get out. So I guess they use Mbenga, but
So like he's in there in the middle of the universe, like this sidewalk in the middle of the universe, and then they just cut out. And goes, oh well, we're back. And I'm like, another orange juice question at the refrigerator.
yeah. Um it felt too like we didn't quite get this felt like a big finale episode for Pike and Pike's story. And I think we get like that moment for Kirk and for Spock, but we don't really get any kind of like we sort of have a little moment with Chapel. But everyone I feel like usually for the finale, if it isn't a two-parter cliffhanger, we get sort of a little like here's where we're leaving everyone. You know what I mean? And I guess we're leaving them all on the bridge, but I felt like we could have explored more of like where is Uhura and her sort of journey? Where is Ortegas after, like we kind of dropped the Ortegas and
But I would say this too,
La'an
like,
situation.
do you feel like you don't know where Ortegas is after her big episode?
I guess I do wish I had seen something between Ortegas and Lon. That's something that's still like lingering, but I'm hoping they'll address it the next season.
I'm with you. I'm with you, Mariah. I think we had this moment a moment ago where she had this pretty significant like tragedy. She befriended her enemy, and then in a moment, her friend killed her new friend.
Oh,
and there's no remnant of that. Like,
actually,
yeah,
P.W. Gregory answered the question as far as like, and
how they got out. Yeah, that's how they got out of the chamber. Yeah,
that makes sense. My bad.
But yeah, I wish we had seen it to like kind of tied together. I think the Pike and Benga plot that I think we started the season with, and then to also tie into the whole like destiny thing that happens when they go to the gate. The other thing that was like, this is so nitpicky, but it was just like a blocking thought process for me, and it could have been kind of a funny moment, is when the ships fire the phaser at the gate. Pike and Battelle are just standing right behind it, and I'm like, what if that whole thing just exploded and then you're just in the way?
If they exploded, the whole structure was gonna not make it.
Right.
So like,
I was like, this is a crazy idea.
Yeah.
It would have just been funny for them to be like, should we move over? Like I would have been, I don't know. I would have been like, there could have been something cheeky there. But it did feel very Stargate-y. Anyone else?
Sure. Yeah. No,
Is that I'm trying to figure out your
Is
tone
that
there,
jab?
Mariah.
That
Like,
jab?
No,
yeah,
I'm just
is that
saying.
positive?
I
Is
know
that
there's
negative? Are you
some. I
poking
know
at the
there's some
show? Like, what's happening?
Stargate fans on this podcast.
Well, the gate is made of Naquita, right?
See, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna wait. You're gonna let Mike be in the sick bay when you start poking at Stargate. You gotta at least, if you're gonna poke at Stargate, you gotta let me and Mike, even up the teams a little bit here. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so I have a hot take about season 3 and the series in general. I feel like I don't know Pike. I knew Pike in season 1, and a lot of season 2, and except for that one that memory episode where I didn't really care about it because he didn't remember anything. Like he has like made like kind of a backseat decision to let other members of the crew have their moments. So I know a lot about Uhura. So when you say, where is Uhura on her journey, I go like, I've been seeing her move for two whole seasons. Whereas La'an has made some great strides.
She's got a boyfriend.
Like everyone has moved strides, and all I have for Pike, I have like almost nothing in season 2 as far as growth. In season 3, all I have is like, here's a simp for a girl who happens to be a captain as well, which I'm fine with. But at the same time, I'm hoping that in season 4 there's more Pike.
Yeah, I think now we got Sad Boy Pike, and I'll be interested to see how that kind of pushes the character.
Like, I guess the way I would describe it is, here's the way I would put it. I was like Pike's gonna have a really bad future for a long while. It's gonna get really bad for him until TOS Menagerie. Anyway, so like I kind of want to feel that tragicness. I want to feel like, I really rooting for this guy. This guy is awesome, and all of a sudden tragic, as opposed to sad, and then like radiation poison.
Yeah, I mean, we still have all of the Vigna stuff to get to.
Yep.
Well, and I think, Paul, to your point a bit, what I'm left with is, if we go back to Discovery and the introduction of Pike, and really season 1, Pike was setting up to be pretty much a badass.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, wow, we're getting like, we're about to get a new face carved on the Captain Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
And it's almost like this hero figure, but in the last 2 seasons, they've shied away from that. And I'm left like, yeah, but like, I needed that. I kind of wanted that. I wanted this. Give me another super captain. But then when you take him away, I'm gonna be disappointed. And I'm not there yet. He's cool, but he's not legendary yet.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also hard because of episode orders, right? Like we had so much more time to get to know all of the other captains, and honestly, we're getting even more time getting to know Kirk. So it's like of all of them,
and
Pike
Janeway with Prodigy.
Exactly. So like we kind of like don't have as much room, I think, to give that character the same expectation for growth.
I think the way I would describe it is like the last 2 seasons have been focused on the
ensemble.
Yeah, and I'm not even criticizing that. I think a lot of, but I do feel that much like a mall, like there needs to be a few anchor stores and
Yeah.
and I think Pike's anchor store has been a little neglected, or at least like it could go with
It's
a.
giving Sears rather than a Dillard's right now.
I was
That's
gonna say,
that,
did you just call Pike J.C. Penney's? Like, what are you doing, bro?
I think a Sears is probably more like, it's, Craftsman tools, like they're
Mhm.
reliable, but like, are they the sexiest tools? I don't know.
Hey, he's Macy's. Do not get it twisted. Pike is Macy's.
I'm just saying it just needs a facelift, a glow up. That's he has a hair product for it, so like, it's gonna be okay.
Mhm.
But this is just my feeling as a Trek fan watching 3 seasons of this. Like, I thought the end of season 1 was exceptional for who Pike
Mhm.
was. I go like, oh, I'm interested in this guy. This guy has, and like all of season 1, like it really kind of built up. Like, oh, here's going to be this like legendary captain who happens to also be more of a team player than any other captain. Not in not in like, like the other captains weren't team players, but like this captain, unlike all the other ones, is really more about collaborative decision making than
Mm.
any other one, which is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it can be hard, and ensemble casts can be, I think, a harder thing for some folks to for some rooms to crack than others. I've been I don't know if anyone else has watched Twisted Metal over on Peacock, but I think that's a show that is doing a big ensemble cast fairly well. And they're dealing with some legacy characters because it's tied to a video game, right? So people have expectations of what these characters are like, but they've made the choice for the 2 kind of co-leads of the there are clear co-leads of the show.
Mhm.
And I think in most of our other Trek franchises, there's very clear 2 to 3 leads, right? Like in TOS, it is Spock, Kirk, and Bones, right? And so I wonder if we're just missing a little bit of like the direction of who is our core 3, which is difficult because I really like this full ensemble, but I think it's about finding those like corrective moments to give them their like I think the Ortega's episode is the correct way to like accomplish that in some regard for some of our other characters. I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts about that?
I kind of think what might have made sense, because if you kind of think about it, there's a bit of a generational thing here. Like when I think of like TNG, it felt like they were all about the same age, with the exception of like it was like mature. They felt a little bit mature.
Mhm.
Whereas with Enterprise, it feels like they're really young, and you got a couple older, kind of wise gray hairs. So I think in that realm, you have this opportunity to establish Pike as this like coach mentor,
Mhm.
right? Who like almost like a player coach, where you can develop the ensemble, but he's this wise figure that comes in and can kind of guide you, right? Where I actually think what has happened is you've seen that be hinted at a little bit more with Una.
Yeah,
right.
no, Una seems to be the hard ass.
Yeah, and so kind of coming in there and going, "Well, what do you think about this?" And let me give you some correction. I think there's a way where you establish Pike as this legendary captain who is growing this young team.
Mhm.
That probably would have been an interesting approach for me, where like you get that, like with these, every once in a while you get a hint where you go, "Oh, he's a badass." And so as another show reference, I don't know why I'm watching it. It's a simple show. It's got a simple formula, but I've been
Mr.
watching
Belvedere.
SWAT. And there's an episode where you have this captain figure who is pushed into, they've got an old contact that has to go on a mission. And they go into a mission and they're amazing. And the younger members are going, "I knew you were a good captain, but I had no idea that you were a good cop." Like that's kind of those moments where like you'd have Pike show up and he's like, boom, and he's, you're like, wow, you really are like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, in that way that like did y'all watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Yep.
Yeah, so like it's a really great ensemble comedy. And I think the way that the captain on that show would come in and kind of like he would let the underlings make some mistakes and then swoop in to make sure no one would get hurt, kind of thing, but in a way that created a bit of a lesson. I think there is that craving for Pike to be doing that, and I hope we get a little bit more. Although I'm also down for next season to be the crew is what lifts him back up. Do you know what I mean? After this sort of tragedy in some way, but I'll be interested to see where they go with it.
Like, and maybe this is me because I've been here's a hot take, Clyde. So you're not going to know where this goes.
The minute you started talking, I perked up and was like, I'm leaning in.
So
and I can't. I'm like, let's put the other headphone on.
So first, I've been married for 24 years. Probably going to make it 25. So it's been a minute. Okay, so like get that out of the way. I love my wife. She is great, and I would not trade her for the world.
But
if I had lived a lifetime with her till her deathbed, and then we flash back to this Pa Wraith prison, and then she goes, okay, we're done. I gotta do it. I've had a lifetime with her, and I'm young, and I get to live a little bit more of my life. Hello.
You're stoked.
I'm just saying, I'm not a sad sack. I'm still a sad sack because in 10 years, 5 years, I'm gonna have radiation sickness, and I'm gonna be a Paul potato. But until then, I have a good 5 years of pretty healthy in the 23rd century, 22nd century kind of and I got my hair.
I love you, Paul, man. You are the best. You are absolutely the best. So to sum up what you're saying is
Pike should be stoked going into this next season.
Yeah, so he had your Picard with your inner light, and when you come back, go full Riker. That's what you're saying.
I'm just saying, Picard is living 2.5 lives. Like Picard should be there should never be a time where Picard is oh, almost that's you're living twice.
So you're saying
Pike? No. This is Picard in the inner light.
Yeah.
Pike has had Pike is going on too, and so I don't understand why people are all so mopey. You had lived with her to the point where she was gonna die. And then, she doesn't die. She just becomes this frozen mannequin in this space jail.
So what you're saying is, for Pike and Picard, every time we see them in their cabin, there should be a different ensign or lieutenant.
I'm not cool with those power dynamics, man. That's not a cool power dynamic thing. I am just saying, in the end, if you put yourself in that situation where where you get to live the life with the person you love in, I assume, a fairly ideal way, and it comes to its natural conclusion, and then someone gives you here's a one player extra player token, and you get to play again. I mean, that's not bad, right?
Just wild out. Just
I'm not even saying wild up, but don't be a crying little bitch about it.
It is an interesting idea to think about the overall themes of the episode, in that it was a little bit science, spirituality, good versus evil. Is there something to the idea of essentially Pike gets to remember a past life? If you think of other forms of spirituality where that is a part of the death story, and so. Is it that Pike got to live a full other life and now has to remember that past life and knows his future? I mean, it's interesting when he knows his future. Anyway, I like when Trek throws some spirituality questions at us and think about it.
Yeah.
No, don't misunderstand me. I think I can understand what the thought process was in constructing it, and it's just a matter of my wife and I play a lot of hypothetical situations. Things like, oh, if you go back in time, as you are now, would you marry you? And our solution is no.
Danger, Paul.
The answer is always that question. No. The answer is always no. He goes look, I have 24 years on you, kid. You are great. 24 years ago with me 24 years ago, but me old and and sad and cynical and all the things that I am going back to 24 years and meanwhile, why would have put that evil on her?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Marriage Relationship Talk with Paul Satachin.
The time travel.
Time travel relationship talk. I will say the turkey and the pies in the Thanksgiving sequence or Christmas sequence did look impressive. Good job,
No,
food styling department.
everything is,
And thank you, Mariah. I was trying to figure out how we're getting food in this episode.
How
we
we
hadn't
getting
mentioned it
food?
yet, and we're like in the 50th minute. I was worried.
I know,
there
in
for
the
a second.
same way that if you looked closely enough, when we did flash back to the interdimensional space, Peanut Hamper was
Say
flying
it.
in the background.
Thank
right.
you. Okay.
It's all.
We need
It's,
consistency. This is who we are. We need
you
consistency.
know what's
is
going to
important.
happen in season 4? Here's my prediction, or maybe season
Peanut
5. I don't
Hamper
know.
comes in.
No. Peanut Hamper, but like Kirk is going to have a hot dog, and then we're going to see him put ketchup and mustard and
Oh,
relish.
redeemed.
And then and then and then he's gonna take a bite and goes like, I don't know how these are just the best. Some bullshit call and response to that, like that sad Kirk who grew up in like non-federation like on a freaking ship,
Farm in
like, you know,
Iowa.
that Kirk didn't grow up in Iowa. Anyway, so he goes like, oh, that's my Kirk, condiment hot dog eating.
A little bit of relish and we're good.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Writers, if you're listening, it will know if you put a condiment on Kirk's hot dog.
That's right, like
Man, please.
just season 5 finale, hot dog.
Hot dog party.
And if writers are you listening, we're not even telling you what condiments to put on. Whatever you do, right? You want some sauerkraut, whatever it is, you do it. Eat chili, like whatever. Just not plain.
Oh, but
Barbecue sauce.
But here it goes. So here's where they screw with our mind. Kirk is eating a hot dog with properly, and then Spock eats a plain hot dog.
No, don't do that.
No, fair enough. I think if Spock had eaten a plain hot dog, we may not talk about it as much.
We'd be like, yeah, that tracks.
That tracks. Yeah, that's on brand.
That's because Spock wouldn't emote the same way that Kirk emoted and went back for another plate. Anyway,
but also Kirk has really established himself as the king of cool in Star Trek, and the king of cool would not eat a plain hot dog. Like that just doesn't add up. You got the leather jacket, but your hot dog is plain. Come on, man. That's not how that works.
Transferring from hot dog talk. What are things that you hope to see next season?
More lawn. Sorry. Give me a second to think about that. Yeah.
More dance lessons. I know we didn't get a dance this episode.
So here's what I'm looking for. And once again, I'm the outlier. I'm waiting for La'an to die.
You're dead.
No, I love La'an. Don't misunderstand me. I love La'an. I think she's great. But like, what's gonna
Jay, are we gonna get Sulu next season?
Yes,
that might be cool. That might be really cool. But I'm really curious to see how La'an leaves the fray. Like because I feel like she's become a favorite of mine, and she doesn't make it to TOS in any form that I see. And I do feel like
maybe she goes to work in like some sort of research to do with like the her family history.
Yeah, like maybe
that's something.
She becomes the ambassador to the Gorn.
Yeah, I maybe like all these things, but for all of it, like if there is no impact like in the future, like if it's just like oh, we're just gonna shift you away somewhere, that feels like I feel like she deserves more. I feel like Pelia, I'd rather have a show.
Yeah, so I would say Kevin Jones says I'd rather have a show set in TOS but with a new crew and ship. Like I think there's space for this where La'an could be on a new ship in the same time period.
I'd be okay with that too. It's just a matter of like maybe it's not. I'm predicting that she'll die. I don't know if that's correct. What I'm saying is I'm curious to see how they move her off the ship. That's what I truly mean. And I know that's gonna break Clyde's heart, but like the second thing I'm most looking for is like to see Clyde weep as Christina Chong says her swan song. It goes, oh, she doesn't die, but it was the honor of my life serving with you guys. And Clyde,
listen, La'an's amazing. The thing about Star Trek is there are plenty of wonderful characters that will capture your heart.
Mhm.
So there are others. I'll be okay. That being said,
He says that,
I
but like cut to like Patel giving him time travel powers.
I'm just saying. So I think I similarly to Paul, but not with the Death Note. I'm a little bit curious about what happens to our non-Enterprise crew, like all of them. So, and
Mhm.
we haven't, hopefully in season 4, Mitchell gets more than like a line and a half an episode. But again, this is the same thing that I said about Discovery. Like, I want to know more about the crew. I want to know more about these bridge people that we never talk about. But the Ortegas, the Mitchells, what happens to Mbenga after this? Like, there's some things that I
Well,
kind of want to
isn't Mbenga
see.
in TOS for a beat?
Not that I know of.
No. I feel like we
Maybe.
hear about
I'm
Mbenga.
I'm not a TOS expert, so I won't even claim to pontificate on that. But I'm curious about what happens to this crew. Like, we know they're superheroes, and Chapel and Spock and Scotty, and now Kirk. We know that they're all like, they're going to be forever. They're fine.
Mhm.
But what's the future of everybody else, right? And we know so little about number one, about Una. There's a lot that can be mined there, kind of going forward. So we know she's around, but what else? And I think for me, the story is, and maybe you guys know already, but what happens to her after Kirk gets the Enterprise? Why isn't she there?
Una?
Yeah, she was first officer on the ship.
Yeah.
What's her story post Kirk, Spock, Enterprise? And so much of her crew was there. Does she get her own ship? Does she die? Like, what happens?
Oh, word.
We shall see.
I will say this, one of the things that I hope they do, the writers do, and this impacts on, is that in TOS, Spock is still betrothed to, what's her name?
T'Pring.
T'Pring.
Oh,
And so she comes.
that's a
She's
good one, Paul.
if we. I
Oh, do
know
we
people,
get a T'Pring and on fight? That would be kind of fun.
like something's gonna happen if they stick to canon, which I hope they
Hold on,
do.
give me a second. I just gotta
Stop,
okay.
Clyde. Stop. But and so I'm curious to see how that's going to manifest, because I think it's if you want good shipping, this is good. This is good for that.
Yeah, totally.
Like some bit where T'Pring comes by and then maybe they bring Cybok back into this because they set up and then she goes like, "Oh, I see you moved on to another human."
Shady T'Pring.
Explore your human side. Oh, well, she is a bit of an augment.
I mean,
Just right in that dialogue, Paul. Just right in the dialogue.
You gotta admit, the banter between T'Pring and Lon would be legendary.
Top notch.
Yeah.
Top notch.
Like,
actually, do you know what I actually hope happens? Is the two of them team up because Spock has done something stupid, and they have to be the ones that team up to like save the day, and by the end are friends.
No, I
team up, huh? Okay.
Like I thought the cast of T'Pring was amazing in season 1. Like I was actually sad that they got rid of her.
I know. I hope she comes back.
Great. Like
speaking of great costumes and
incredible.
But my favorite line is when Spock goes like, "Oh, like I just wanted to apologize for kissing Chapel." Goes like, "Oh, well, no, like I know it's a lie, and aren't you glad you had your human side because because you without that, how could you have sold that kiss?" So I mean, it's just great. It's great.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see what happens next season. I'm excited to see what is going on over in Academy World. And then just for some housekeeping, we're going to take next week off, and then we'll be back talking about the Con audio series, which I've heard so far good things about. So
cool.
We'll figure out a schedule for how many episodes per episode we'll discuss. I have to see how long they are. But yeah, any other big thoughts or feelings about this season. I'm sure also we'll continue to ponder and to think. I do want to do another kind of watch down, I think, through all of it. But again, the first half of the season really, really had me for a while. So I think there's
like,
ones I'll skip, but there's ones I'll definitely revisit.
I think, like, for me, just not that anyone asked, but like I think that
I did
this
ask.
is that's right. I feel like it felt rushed. I
Mm.
felt like it had things that that it was solid, but it felt rushed in some of the ends that they were trying to do, probably because they thought they might have to wrap it up.
Yeah.
I think I don't like you could see the seeds of what they were trying to do, and those seeds are strong, or at least
Mhm.
I'm all on board for those things.
Yeah.
I do actually probably think that this season would probably been done better in a 12 episode as
Agreed.
opposed to 10. Like, just because it did feel a little tight, and you probably want just more breathing room for people to live.
Mhm.
Like just another episode of the week would have been good. Because like with
Mhm.
the holodeck episode, like just coming out so strong with all those bangers, I actually think that was a mistake in pacing.
Mm.
Not because just because like if they all felt like, oh, in this special episode, as opposed
Mhm.
to, and I made this analogy before, like when you're dancing, like partner dancing, you need to do the basic a couple times so that you can see the specialness of the variation.
Mhm.
And when you only have like 10 and everything is trying to be special, you make actually nothing special.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that's just a
No, I agree, Paul. I talk about the fact that in my younger days I ran track, but I'm a stocky guy. So I'm a sprinter, but I was asked once during a track meet to run a 400-meter relay.
Ooh,
And
that's
the
rough.
goal was, the goal was just all we need is the points. So just get around the track. We don't need anything special. Like the person who was supposed to run it cramped up and couldn't run. And so they asked me to fill in at the last minute. And I'm a little bit competitive. So I was running like the third leg. And when I got the stick, it was like everything in my head was just pace yourself. Just pace yourself. And that would have been
Mhm.
fine. But I looked ahead and thought, oh, I can catch him. And so what I tried to do was I started off from a dead sprint.
Mhm.
And as a sprinter, a 100, 200 guy, that start out the gate worked really well. It looked amazing.
And then the last
But
200 yards.
it was awful. Like it was awful. Like it was embarrassingly awful. And I think what I learned in that moment is when you have a bit of a distance, you need to start out with a steady, competitive pace. And then toward the back half, you kick.
Mhm.
I think this season, it started out with such a strong sprint that the expectation is that pacing was going to hold. And it kind of didn't for me. Like it
Yeah.
felt like in the middle, they ran out of gas a little bit and then they got across the finish line and at it with a decent time. But if the pacing had just been a little bit different, I think this could have been a really fascinating season for me.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I would
I
agree with
agree. Word. Okay, we're at an
that.
hour
Okay,
3.
Okay. We will talk to you all in 2 weeks. We'll see you over on Slack. Thank you again so much for listening. Thank you for watching. And until next time.
And actually, I like to thank our listeners. I
Yeah.
like I haven't done that before ever because I'm ungrateful and I'm a terrible person. But like when Chris said, hey, I listened. Like, nice to meet you. I go like, oh, thanks.
Yeah, people listen.
Thanks for
People
listening. Like, I
listen
know.
to our garbage. Yeah.
I know. I'm just here like every Thursday talking about Star Trek. But like the fact that people tune in to listen, like is actually really nice.
Yeah, it's nice. And I will say, for one of the first times, none of my Mariah theories were right. And I'm sad about it.
Ooh, sorry, Mariah.
But it's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah,
I
I
had
want
good
to echo
thoughts,
those
but none of
those
but
things.
none
Next
of them
season's a
hit.
chance to grow. Next
Yeah,
chance
Next
to grow.
you
season,
got it next
Mariah
week.
theories coming in hot. All right,
Okay.
y'all. Thank you so
Okay.
much. We'll see you next time. Live long and
Bye,
prosper.
everyone.
Bye.
Matashta.